Watch more programs like this on cable and stream with PCN Select. Subscribe at PCNTV.com.
General John Gibbon again. Well, after 2 days of fighting, the third day dawned rather peacefully. There was only sporadic firing around the line, some pickets exchanging fire from time to time. Some of my men managed to find probably the last surviving chicken anywhere near Gettysburg and prepared a stew for myself. Also with me was my Corps Commander, General Hancock, and General Newton. General Meade's headquarters was within shouting distance, and I went over and I invited him to join us. And he said that he could not. There were messages coming and going, and he had to be there. And I said, well, General, I said, your headquarters is adjacent to mine. I'm certain they could find you if it's important. He relented. I told him it was necessary to keep his strength up yet. The battle was not yet over. Well, as we were eating, we had a leisurely time. And as I said, there was only sporadic firing here and there on the line, nothing that caused concern on anyone's part. And then after we were concluded with our lunch, General Hancock, General Newton, and I, we just sat there on the ground and talked about perhaps what we could do, any further adjustments we could make in the disposition of our forces. And how long that was, I really couldn't say. But then all of a sudden we heard a single cannon shot. And it burst right nearby, followed by a cannonading that I had never heard in my entire career before that or since that. The air was literally alive with screaming shells, cannonballs bouncing down everywhere. The long shells tumbling through the air. They gave the impression that even if you were not in front of the gun that fired them, somehow they were going to find you and kill you. I immediately sent an orderly over to get my horse to go to the front. I looked over at where the horses were quartered. I saw the shell that hit him and killed the horse. Not wasting any time, my aide and I, Lieutenant Frank Haskell, we went to the front up a small swale. It was readily apparent to me when I got there that most of the shells were falling in our rear. They were not really falling in the line. Several of them were, and they caused considerable damage. One of the batteries had 3 caissons that were hit simultaneously. Tremendous explosion, killing the horses and most of the men in that battery. Frank and I stepped over the little stone wall that most of our men had used for fortification and walked forward. Some of my men got up to follow, and I held them back. I borrowed my field glasses and I looked out, and all I could see was smoke and flashes in the smoke, the artillery fire. But I reckon that we were perfectly safe where we were, standing up, because here again, most of the shells were falling to the rear, doing very little damage. Walked along the lines and I told everyone, be still, be calm, take cover, and they did. One of my messengers reached me from General Hancock, and he asked me, what is the meaning of this bombardment? And I wrote back to him, it is undoubtedly either cover for a retreat or the prelude to an attack. After about another 10 minutes or so of bombardment, I grabbed a messenger and I said, take this to General Hancock. I said, it is my contention, sir, that this is definitely a prelude to an attack. It is just far too consistent and far too heavy to be anything else. Now, around that time, my mount finally arrived. I rode up and down my lines. The firing stopped on the other side and the smoke lifted. Looking out across the field, all you could see was a solid wall of gray. The enemy was coming towards us, and in numbers that I found incredible. Looked at them. I immediately got a messenger and I said, take this to General Meade. I shall need all the assistance that you can render. By now, our artillery had started firing upon them. It was a devastating sight to behold. Men were falling in swaths and rows. Our artillery started firing canister. This had the effect of turning our cannons into giant shotguns. The Confederates kept coming. And then suddenly, as they got closer to the Emmitsburg Road, I told my men that they could open fire now. Now the air became thick with musket balls everywhere. The enemy kept falling in greater ranks as the canister chewed the ranks apart, and they kept condensing upon our position. And I realized the center of my very line was the focus of their attack. Some of my boys at the wall in the 69th, as they got closer, kept laying murderous fire into them, screaming, Fredericksburg, Fredericksburg, because they had been at Fredericksburg and been suffered to egregious punishment by the Rebs at Marie's Heights. They looked upon this as payback to the enemy. It was around that time that I got hit in the shoulder, and I started feeling faint. I fell off my horse. I was taken to the rear, just as the enemy was closing in. I later found, when I was recovering in hospital, that Lieutenant Haskell had used my authority to summon other brigades under my command to come to the aid of the one in the center under General Webb, who was most under attack and whose men had started to break and run. Lieutenant Haskell stopped them and also secured assistance for them. My impression, my aid deserves as much man as any for winning the Battle of Gettysburg.